Language only.
Well, he did the short form, but he did the long,
Oh, he didn't just use the map plugin?
Boy.
he actually,
I did get your copies of
the
the
measurements, you know, for the workforce. And
These are the new setups that they sent to you.
Those were the electronic ones, but there's
Yeah,
also
you
hard
remember
copies.
these? Yeah. Well, this is the newer one.
Oh, you got it?
He's fairly, he's just,
You have the hard copy from the other day, but these are the
you
ones
can't really get out of this.
changes.
Oh, are you sure that
believe
you
so.
don't have an updated hard copy?
I wanna go over and see.
Yeah, she just had it.
So, don't worry, she has-
You know, yesterday.
Thanks for asking. He's just.
Because I gave Lou my last one.
That's all right.
Yeah. well,
It'll say
yeah, He's got all these years of
provide
expertise built
You
up.
actually
Yeah, it's gotta be
have
fun for them to
411.
use every once in a
Or
while.
411.
Can you actually use older ones
Me?
that have been superseded?
I don't,
This is
There
from
still should be one in the file,
329.
of each.
The older ones?
rendition.
Hey Kurt, need a hand? We're good. You got the extra bacon. Kurt, how are you? Hey.
no, I don't have, there weren't enough, but Karen usually gives me hers. And Adam.
I was gonna grab one, then I saw one missing, it's this good guy. Yeah. What'd you say? You wanna find out?
Yes, free,
Oh, okay, even better.
right? County surplus. We tried to get the whole batch of them, it was like 30-something of them, but by the time we pulled the trigger, half of them had already gone.
Okay.
So we took what we could get.
Great. Let me go next time.
Huh?
They look good.
Yeah, I just wish we could have got the whole lot.
Yeah. Should we set up the tripod? We're done? Set up the tripod? When we're, yeah, we're last.
But one guy-
Your lot is between them, your lot.
Hello.
There you go. Jim
Everybody here?
John Boyd.
Are you here for 5-0?
Well, like I said, it was my first.
I think everybody's here.
So, but they're busy planning their.
Hey, Dave.
golf.
How are you? My people.
Honoring Bill
It's
and
okay.
next year. At their golf
It's 7 o'clock. All right, it's 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
All right, welcome everybody. It's April 12th, 2022, Planning Board meeting. Can I get a roll, Vivian?
Lou Musella,
Here.
Peter Pinelli,
Here.
Adam Borowski is not here, Mike Mersan,
Here.
Ross Fisker.
Here. All right, Lou, releasing the pledge.
Dan? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first item we have on the agenda tonight is we're going to approve the minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of March 8th. Second. I second motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, first applicant we have in front of us tonight is Pawling Free Library.
Good evening.
Hi,
Ed?
How you doing,
Hi.
Mr. Hauser?
I'm Ed Hauser, for the record, and I'm here representing the Pawling Library. I'm helping them with the project. And Brian Avery's over here, he's the director of the library, if you haven't met him. So he's here to answer any questions that might come up. The Pawling Library has been in its current location for 59 years, doing the same business as it originally started doing. No changes in the operation, other than they've gotten much better and much more electronic. The first project, and this is a two-project proposal, is to put an addition on the building with ADA compliant bathrooms. Right now, the only bathroom in the library is like the door like that opens right into a toilet right off the main reading room. So it's not conducive. It doesn't meet the ADA requirements, and it's just in the wrong place. So the library applied to the county and got a CDBG grant for putting the ADA laboratories on the building. And if you're familiar with the building at all, there's a little alcove next to Don Capolino's office. And the library, the bathrooms are gonna go in that alcove, so they're actually not gonna project beyond the existing side of the building on that side. So the purpose of that is to, provide the proper facilities for the staff and for the visiting public. On the other side of the building, the library is proposing to put a children's activity room. And the addition would be about the size of this room back to about here. And it would be on the west side of the building. Now, on the east side of the building, where the ADA laboratories are going, that's on Capolino's property. And he's issued a letter in support of the project, so he has no objection to it. On the west side, the library actually owns the property, so they're not opposing the project either. So there's no problem with the neighborhood there. The two projects are designed to basically enhance existing programs in the library. If you've ever been in there when the kids are there, you walk in the front door, which is a single door, so you open it up, the 20-degree air comes in, and the kids sit on the floor just inside of the door, and that's their children's activity area. So that's not very conducive to good programming. On both sides of the building, the land is absolutely flat. There'll be no change in topography. Currently, there is no drainage in the library at all because waste or rainwater drainage, because the drains are all plugged. So as part of this project, we propose to open up all the drains and get the system working properly. But even with no drains, there's been no flooding. It's not like the water sits in there against the building. It just kind of dissipates onto the lawn. The project meets all of the code requirements. It's a B1. It's an allowed use in B1. The setbacks are 0 in B1, and it's actually going to be set back. I think the closest is going to be about a little under 7 feet to the property line. So there's, it meets those requirements. And but the problem we have is that the library has gotten funding for these projects, and one of the funds is the Learn, Play, Create grant from Dutchess County, and that grant expires on May 20th, which is 4 weeks away. And if they're not under construction on May 20th, they're going to lose $50,000. The village of Pawling, the town of Pawling, is going to lose $50,000. So, with that said, we're asking the planning board to help us or to work with us, find some way that we can get approvals to move ahead and get building permits. We already have a contractor in place for the laboratories. Because of the CDBG grant that was put out to public bid, it went out, it had to go out on BidNet, and the contractor is actually from Mayapack, so we couldn't use a local contractor because of the scope of the bidding process. But and they're waiting. They were ready to start as soon as the frost was out of the ground. So we're hoping we don't lose them because of the costs are skyrocketing, and they gave us a fixed price on the project, so, you know, if we don't get going pretty quick, we're gonna lose them. On the other side, we don't have a contractor yet, but it's our intention to use a local contractor, and, because it doesn't have any, there's no requirement in the county grant for us to do prevailing wage on, so we can bid that locally, and, you know, the half a dozen local contractors who could do that job, that's our intention, so. Brian might want to speak a little bit about the programs, just.
Sure, so, in terms of the kids' corner, as we're calling it, obviously, we're hoping that it will be more conducive to programs in the sense that, not only will it not be by the front entrance, but it will also, there will be a separate door to that area, so we can actually close it, and if the kids are singing, it shouldn't affect the rest of the people in the library, and likewise, the kids will hopefully find it a little easier to focus when there isn't so much activity going on around them. But one of the big things that we're looking forward to with that space is actually just having storage in the same building. When the library was built in the 60s, I guess they didn't factor in much storage at all, so our plan for the kids' quarter will have some storage closets in that space, which will be a huge help for our efficiency of operation to be able to just keep the supplies for the kids program right there and have them at hand. The other thing that I'm really interested in with the Kids Corner is changing the way that the books are shelved so that it's easier for kids to find things. We're going to shelve a lot of the books face out so that kids can actually see what the book is instead of trying to see from the spine, and a lot of times, you know, they can't read yet, so the spine does not really offer them a lot of information about what those books are. So having this separate space for the kids' books should make it much easier for kids to find the books that they're interested in. So that's the part that most interests me.
So we provided, because we had to do all of this for the county, the county planning department oversees the CDBG grant. We've got the seeker documents. We've got, I think, every document that would normally be required for a full site plan review, and that was in the packages that we distributed. The only thing we don't have is a recently certified survey, because every surveyor I called told me that if I could wait until 2023, they might find time. These guys are all pretty busy, so, but we have a survey that was done by Joe Zarecki about 10 years ago, and we're trying to get that recertified, but so that's the only document that's missing. So. Any questions?
Not really. In a sense, it does trigger site plan approval. Like, we have really no way around that. In 9863, the powers of the planning board only authorize us to approve with modifications, or disapprove a site plan. We can't really waive a site plan.
Well, just so you know the implications, there's $50,000.
No, I know.
If there's some way that we could, you know, have the two processes go in parallel or something, I'll leave it in your hands.
Do you have a copy of the requirements for the grant? Like what it means, you know, what is it that has to happen exactly?
Yeah, I'm happy to share that document with you. I didn't bring it tonight because I didn't anticipate that would be a specific question, but basically, the Learn, Play, Create grant is triggered when Dutchess County deposits the money in our bank account, and at that point we have 6 months to spend that money. And so we were hoping to delay the deposit of that money as long as we could, but once they put...
So it's a matter of you have to spend money before, it's not that so if you don't necessarily need a building permit, you need to be underway spending money.
Right. I mean, we'll need to like submit the like progress photos and things like that. But do you actually have to have a shovel in the ground, or is it just paying, you know, taking money out of that bank account? It's not specifically a shovel in the ground. It can go towards anything on the project. So we have to have the outlay of expenses, and we have to be able to document the progress that has been made, basically.
Okay. does that include planning and, you know, like consultants and, you know, you're gonna have those expenses, right?
I mean, we're not gonna hopefully have $50,000 worth of consultant
No,
expenses.
but when did you get the money?
December, that's why it expires May
I see.
20th.
So you haven't spent any of it so far?
Right.
I mean, I just wonder whether that, you know, would be a, you know, somehow prepaying things and,
We could pre-order doors and windows and that sort of thing,
Right.
but we really needed an approved
it doesn't sound like
building
you do,
permit,
though.
because if we, you know, if we order all this stuff and then the building inspector says, no, they don't
Well,
qualify,
yeah,
then that could be a
I
problem.
understand,
so,
that makes sense.
yeah, so.
And those two funding sources are county funding sources, and the county usually will give you time extensions to the grants. They have with the CDBG.
Well, a CDBG grant, we have time, we have until
Yeah, but I
October
mean,
on that
the
one.
county usually will give time extensions, so I don't know if you've reached out to the county to
We
ask
wanted
for
to
that.
wait until tonight. We didn't want to go to the county and ask for an extension until we found out, you know, what our position was with the village.
Yeah, I think as far as the site plan goes, it's a fairly simple site plan. I don't see it taking terribly long to do it. I mean, and you already have a lot of the groundwork
Yeah,
done.
but it's another month. And then we have to apply for building permits, which is gonna be another month, so we're well beyond the deadline for the grant.
Maybe this board would be willing to call a special meeting in the meantime, if most of your paperwork's in place already, and it,
I think everything's there in the packet that I submitted.
we're still gonna have to have these guys review it.
I have a few questions. What is the role of the state education department here? Because I see that you have a SHPO sign-off from 2020, and I see that you're something about a charter and state and SED. Can you explain that?
Brian, I think you explained that.
Sure. In terms of the SHPO letter, so that was, we had explored, before we knew we were getting the community development block grant, we had explored the possibility of applying for state funding for the bathroom project. And as part of that, you know, that we generated a certain number of documents. We heard back from the state that they would be interested in funding the removal of the buried oil tank, which is on the site where we're planning on putting the bathrooms, but they would not be interested in funding the actual bathroom project itself.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, there's no state involvement with these particular plans, but there was a lot of paperwork generated at the point when we were asking them for that.
So that was in 2020?
Um,
Just because I see that the letter from State Historic Preservation Office is dated for 2020. So I'm
Yes,
just
yes,
curious.
so the date on there, yeah, so typically we apply in August for those funds.
Mhm.
And so we would have applied in August of 2020 for the project to happen this year, yes.
So then, and then on the deed, let's see, there's this statement here. The indenture made in December of '62 between Robert Howard and the party of the first part and Pawling Free Library, an institution chartered under the University State of New York State Education Department. The reason I'm asking this question is because, like, school districts are exempt from zoning. And I'm just wondering if there is something similar that's possible here that could, you know, help this project move along quicker. But somebody with a law degree needs to look into that one.
No, I was looking at, that's what I was getting on this, to see if there's, I mean, that might be, you know.
So while he's looking into that, one of the other questions I had was, you mentioned that you have a contractor for the ADA project, but not for the other.
That's correct.
And so can you tell us, can you just kind of go over that again? Why is it that you don't have that lined up? Is there, I guess I'm just trying to see if there's a reason to, if there's a reasonable reason to separate the two projects out you know, maybe you're not ready to do one, but you're ready to do the other, which could make things go faster. Maybe, maybe not. It just kind of depends.
Yeah,
So-
it was, the laboratory project got started, and they were still raising money for the children's wing, so that, you know, until they had reached a certain threshold, they really didn't want to get started in developing that project, so that's the reason there was a difference. Unfortunately, the one that's ready is not the one that has the funding that's in jeopardy.
I see, I see.
And the other reason to separate them out is that the community development block grant requires prevailing wage. And so that drastically limits the number of contractors who are willing to bid on it.
Yeah.
Whereas the Kids Corner project, because it's not being built with HUD funding, you know, we can use any contractor, you know, we can bid that way. And so if we had bid them together, I think that would have drastically reduced our options and substantially increased the cost of the Kids Corner
I see.
project.
Okay. And at this time, it doesn't seem like there are any other involved agencies, although I guess you do need a connection to the Pawling Sewer and Water Joint Sewer Commission because you're adding the bathrooms.
building's already tied into the sewer.
It's already
and
tied
into the
in.
water, yeah.
Yeah, but you're adding a couple more toilets, or the other
No,
toilets
we're
will go
just
offline?
replacing the existing- well,
Okay.
There's a single one there now, we're gonna put two in, so.
Are you doing anything inside the existing footprint, or is it all?
It's all outside.
There's
But,
nothing.
but because of the alcove in the shape of the footprint, we stuck the bathrooms in that little alcove, so. But it's not inside the existing.
Nothing's in the existing footprint.
Right.
And did I catch that part of the expansion is on somebody else's property?
No.
Oh, okay. So the letter from the attorney is just that he's okay with that?
Yeah, right,
Okay.
it's on his side, and we have to access the construction site through his parking lot, so,
Okay.
you know, we're gonna make sure that he fully understood the project, and, so he offered to generate that letter.
So, I mean, we don't see any other involved agencies yet, but we haven't done like a full zoning review. So like, there might be some area variances that may be required, in which case then you would have another involved agency, and that would be the Zoning Board of Appeals, which would lengthen the process to some degree, because then there would have to be a 30-day circulation for seeker to the other involved
I don't
agency.
see
Now,
that
they
they
might
would-
sign off sooner, but,
I don't see that there would be an area variance. I mean, we're well within the ratio of floor space to property. We actually exceed the setbacks.
but have you looked at the urban regulations to determine if they apply to your project?
I looked at the bulk regulations and, you know, everything seems to fit.
So we'll have to consider, you know, the full zoning resolution just to see where it falls out,
Sure.
but I'm just letting you know
We're
what's
not
out
going
there.
up, we're not raising the height. You can hardly see it from Broad Street.
How many square feet is the existing library?
That's a good question, about 5,400 square feet, I believe.
Yeah, I have that information,
So do
just
I, somewhere.
not in my brain.
So, I mean, so you're gonna be under 20% of the square footage increase.
17%.
That would, so the threshold of 20% increase in assessment, if that would exempt you from the urban regs,
Mhm.
if that's, there's a determination that the footage is equivalent to the assessment change, so
Mhm.
that would.
Anything else?
No, that's,
Well,
I
thank
think
you very much
that's
for
it.
your time.
Yeah, thank
Appreciate
you. I think we'll be in touch.
Well done, Ned. Well done. Good luck.
All right, next, we have 5 Oak.
Good evening, everyone. Okay. So I think last time this project was before you, it had an initial zoning review on it. So we've taken Karen's letter and we've kind of gone through a lot of the items. We've gotten to see her current one. Just to run you through the project again. We have existing property on the corner of Oak Street and Arch Street, 5 Arch Street, or Oak Street, excuse me. And we have an existing building that's basically this footprint here. It's a 1-story commercial building right now. We're proposing to add to the foundation and on the south side of the property and the east side of the property, put a full 2nd story on this building, and bring the 2nd story actually out to Oak Street and bring it further to the south towards Arch Street. So it would have 1,200 square feet of commercial space, about 1,000 square feet of net commercial space on the 1st floor, with one of the apartments in the rear corner of this new building here, or the expanded building. And on the 2nd floor, we'd have 4 apartments. So the total thing is it's a commercial building with 5 residential apartments on the property. Basically, we've got space for 5 parking spaces along Arch Street, which is essentially in the existing curb cut and parking area that's there now. We're trying to, we believe that probably we do cross the threshold of the 20% increase, so the urban regulations would apply to this. I think we just need a final determination on that from the board. But what we've done here is we've actually tried to bring the building in better compliance with urban regulations. So I bring the front face of the building in this section here, right to the street line on Oak Street. Obviously to the south of the building, we can't do that because we have the parking. So the urban regulations that we can't meet, that we'll probably need to go to the zoning board for, in terms of the percentage of frontage of the building. We have this portion here, but, you know, we could put some garden walls on this thing to help get that, but I think that would issue some problems with sight distance and things coming around that corner, so. That's it in a nutshell.
All right. Aaron, I'll let you start, I guess, with those responses for your review.
Thank you. I became again familiar with local law 1 of 2014.
Yes. Everybody's favorite.
Yes. So it turns out that for that local law, I believe that the planning board can determine the number of parking spaces required for this development, in which case it may be that they do not need a parking variance. However, that local law also states that you cannot park in the front yard. So, you know, it's a corner lot, you got 2 front yards here. So where I'm going with this is that you'd still be going back to the zoning board of appeals for a variance related to the location of the parking.
Yeah, I think whatever that boils down to, I think this site is very unique, and I think that we can't tick all the boxes, it's impossible, so.
Okay.
We have to pick our battles on this one, I think.
So let's see here. All right, so urban regulations apply. I believe the board, you agree with this?
Yes, I think
Okay.
so.
All right, I mean, is that your statement rather?
Yes.
Okay. So you just mentioned garden walls. Yeah, so if you're not going for garden walls, then that has to be part of the area variance that you're seeking, right?
I mean, there's no way we can get a garden wall to go across the parking, so it doesn't work.
I hear ya. Now, the urban regulations also get into a required location of parking. You know, you familiar with that type 1 shop front drawing?
Yes.
Right, so anyway, you're going anyway because you're not allowed to park in the front yard. So you're looking for a variance one way or the other on the location. Where else are we here? And then the maximum units per lot, that part of the urban regs.
I think local law 1 eliminated the density requirements. I
Of
believe.
2018,
Yes,
you mean?
Yes.
Well, it eliminated the density requirements in the bulk schedule.
Okay.
I don't.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
Frustrating. Yes, it's frustrating. Anyhow, okay, so per local law 1 of 2018, the maximum height permitted is 4 floors of 50 feet. So you're obviously
well
below
under
that.
yes.
You know that the metric should be measured from the average street grade to the midpoint of the gable.
Yeah, there's probably a 2-foot difference between here and here all the way around, so we're well under.
Okay. So I just suggested that you dimension showing the required 0-foot setback. I recognize you can't really dimension that, but if you could just note next to it, 0-foot required
Yes.
and provided, right? There are 2 front yards, as we just noted. I think it would be helpful if you provided the applicant's rationale for how the project meets the following supplemental criteria from Local Law 1 of 2018, which I'm sure you're familiar with, as to the planning board shall determine for such special permit that due to the nature of the business, the location of the building, unsuitable public parking, unsuitable sidewalk amenities, or other conditions unfavorable for retail and commercial uses exist, that residential use of all or a portion of the ground floor or first floor may be permitted. In addition, the planning board may base such determination in part on the first floor, ground floor being suitable for use by disabled persons. And I would just suggest any other vulnerable population that
Yes.
might prefer such.
While you're on that one, I'll just mention, basically our commercial space is proposed to be in the L shape that basically faces both of the streets. Our one apartment is in the back corner here, and also, since this building isn't required to have an elevator, that would provide a unit that could be accessible for someone with a handicap.
So my next comment is about the number of parking spaces required, but then I found Local Law 1 of 2014, and it looks that the planning board can determine what they think is feasible for this. And so maybe you could go over how it's allocated.
Yeah, what we've done here is we figured we have 5 apartments in here, so we're providing 5 parking spaces on the site. We have merchant parking and other parking in the immediate vicinity of this, so, and also that coupled with the idea of shared parking in terms of, people that would go to the business would be there during the day, people that want to live there, most likely they'll be there at night, so there'd be a shared parking spot per se. In a perfect world, but anyway, so there is parking in the immediate vicinity for this, so that we could have people walk to the site, and that's what makes it downtown vibrant too. It's like you go to one store, you don't have to go to just that one store, you can go to one, walk to a few others if you want to, so.
Okay. Yeah, I think that the submission said there was a shared parking analysis provided, so if you could just put that in writing and make that part of the file,
Sure.
because now it's not before the planning board wasn't asking for it because I thought it was going to the ZBA, but now since the planning board is determining what's suitable, it would be appropriate to put that in writing. The floor area ratio just seemed like it was off a little.
Yeah, that's.
The form should be signed.
Viv does have the signed one, and it was the hard copy was submitted, signed.
The project description and
We've
just a
added
little
to
bit
that,
fuller.
yes.
There's a couple things that somehow became unfilled out. It happens to me sometimes too, so I know how that goes. Methodology for calculation, type of commercial uses. Oh, the water. The water demand seemed a little low when I did my own calcs based on the commercial square footage in the residential units.
I think it was per the Dutchess County requirements. I
Yeah.
think it's like 600 and something gallons
Yeah,
per day.
I came up with this, not a drastically
Yeah,
different number, but
because
just
they're
slightly
one-bedroom
different.
apartments, so we have 5 one-bedroom apartments plus maybe 4 employees for the commercial space in there, so that's where our numbers came from.
Okay,
based
just
on-
write it out,
Yeah,
please. Thanks.
fine.
Let's see. Right, so the U.S. Fish and Wildlife notes that the site could have potential presence of Indiana bat and bog turtle. So as part of the part 1, just identify,
Yeah, I think we've responded to that for other projects too, that the
Yeah.
site's basically all developed and there's no habitat
Right.
on the site, so.
So going forward, we'd like to see additional detail on exterior lighting, photometric plan.
Yeah, well, okay, so that's a question while we're talking here. It's like, we have 2 street lamps, one here, one here. They're off-site, but they basically provide lighting along here. What we're proposing to do is actually, in these covered areas here, is just to provide recessed can lighting in there. So there's no building-mounted lighting per se. It's just underneath the overhangs on the first story of this thing, just to provide that walkway with light, so.
So you think those light poles are sufficient to?
Yeah, I mean, they basically light this whole corner around here.
Yeah, I can verify that.
Yeah.
They get the area is very well lit.
Okay, so for parking, Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it floods, that kind of floods this area now, because it's all pretty much open,
Okay.
this corner.
I mean, I think in the past, we've discussed, you know, where it's suitable that a lighting plan and photometrics are something that can be waived as a requirement, but, you know, you don't have to make that decision today. You know, maybe, obviously, we're gonna see the project again. You can think about it and decide if you need further information, or if you're content with the information that Kurt's provided here. The only other thing I would say is that I know that they're not proposing a standalone sign, and that the signage was gonna be in the window with maybe like some decals or something.
Yeah, it might be that, or might be on the building face, if there's a little bit of building face that we could put underneath that canopy in there.
So then they would probably want a little bit of lighting for that, right?
Possibly.
Yeah, so just, if there is
Fine.
that proposed, then
Okay.
just to describe what
Sure.
that would be. So, I don't think we got a deed, which,
Viv
maybe you
has
got
one.
it? Okay. And then again, I'm just noting that there's a sidewalk on Oak Street that partially extends in front of the building.
It ends right there.
It ends right there.
And there's a crosswalk that comes to it from
Mhm.
across the street.
Okay, so I just wanted to bring that up for the planning board, you know, so they can make sure that, as the project moves forward, if there's an opportunity there or any relationships that need to be made, that those are made.
Is there a sidewalk that runs down the other side of Arch Street?
I
Yeah, is there a
think
sidewalk?
it's only here, I
It's
don't
only-
believe there's a sidewalk.
There's any
down there.
sidewalk there?
No.
Oh, there is a sidewalk.
Is it?
Yeah.
Across here?
Yeah, there's a sidewalk. across
Okay,
there.
there is.
So your parking stalls there are what, 9 by 19?
9 by 19,
Yeah,
yes.
so they need pretty much, what's the space between the end of the stall and
We've
the,
probably got, I'm gonna say 3 feet or so.
yeah. And then where the sidewalk stops on Oak Street, can you point to that again?
Right there.
Right, okay, oh,
And the crosswalk comes right here.
oh, it connects to that point?
To the other, yeah, it connects to the sidewalk on the opposite side.
Right.
And I think these sidewalks were done somewhat recently.
It looked that way.
Yeah. I think that was part of a grant that the village got.
That's it for my questions.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions about this application? Are we ready to declare ourselves lead agency on this, or should we wait for some more, Kurt to respond to the rest of these
Well,
items?
I mean, it's good that it's signed.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
important.
I think just with some cleanup, I mean, we've done most of the cleanup based on getting
Yeah.
your letter and just
Yeah.
get it to you to review again. If we could start the 30 days, get the intent to declare out, that would be great, so we could.
So I think what it is that if you could make those changes,
Mhm.
right? And then, I mean,
And get
Dave,
those
are
to you
they
tomorrow.
able to, is the board able to, like, resolve to issue the declaration of intent, you know, upon receipt of like these minor changes to the application, like within the next week or so? I mean, like, can they resolve that now and then we can progress that as soon as we get it from Kurt, since they're minor in nature?
Do we have all the variances they need and defined for the zoning board, so?
Well, I mean, so yeah, it's not as carefully defined as I think we'll need it to be, but we know enough to know it needs to go to the zoning board, and so we'll circulate to them.
All
So
right.
it doesn't hold that up. It's a very good question.
All right.
Because you'll probably do a letter at some point in actual referral to the ZBA with maybe some of the variances spelled out, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, generally, in my letter, I spell out what they are.
okay.
There are a few here that seem a little uncertain to me, or I'm not sure exactly how we should proceed with those.
Okay.
And yes, in practice, the planning board has been making referrals to the zoning board just to kind of keep everyone, you know, in line, knowing what's happening. But I don't think we're quite ready to make that referral yet.
No, but I think,
Yeah.
because I don't think we'll be able to get to them before May, but at least if we can get the
I think
lead
we-
agency started, we can
Yes.
get that ready to go, so you can refer us and we can go.
Yeah.
If you think we can make these decisions
Well, we
if the
don't,
clock's gonna start ticking, I wanna make sure that we have everything, in place.
well, the referral is a 30-day clock. I mean, it just means that you have to wait 30 days to declare yourselves lead agency. It doesn't mean that you have to determine the significance for seeker in 30 days. You're not obligated at 31-day mark to say, neg deck or pos deck. So
Right.
we have time to figure out exactly which variances are required.
All right,
And we'll get the changes that Karen's requested tomorrow, Thursday at the latest, just for you to review. And if everything's okay, then that EAF should be ready to go for that first step.
Sounds good to me.
okay. I mean, I don't have any problem if you think,
I don't think that there's any danger I mean, the application was basically ready, but then some of the information fell out. I don't think it was intentional, it was inadvertent, and it was signed, she has the copy. I think they went a long way and it makes sense to go ahead and circulate. And
Yeah.
it's not gonna hurt us in any way, shape, or form. Like, it doesn't, change our ability to make good decisions.
all right.
So I don't know, Dave, do they need to make a motion at this point to
Why not?
declare
Yeah.
intent? And
Yeah.
then,
Yep.
once you receive the updated materials from the applicant?
Okay, that sounds good. Can I get a
I
motion?
make a motion that we become the lead agency on this pending the rest of the submission of the materials. So we get started on it.
Okay. Declare ourselves intent to be lead agent on this. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Are there, just while we're here, were there any other issues that kind of the board sees as stumbling blocks as we move along, or is it just kind of go through the process?
One thing that I did see on like the floor plan, it's
Mhm.
like a shared hallway for the residential and the commercial space as you come in that side door.
That's more for the commercial space, that's more like the back door of the commercial space. You'll have front doors that go directly into the commercial space on two sides, on both Arch and Oak Street. That's kind of like the back door out.
Right, but it's the front door to the residence.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just an access door for the commercial. Doesn't need to be there per se. We could
Right,
close
it's
it off
kinda-
if we wanted.
It just seems strange. Like
Yeah.
if I was a resident there and I got someone coming out the back door to business into
Right.
my vestibule, it's kind of strange.
We can
I don't
look-
know.
We can look,
That's-
we can look at that, not a problem.
Yeah, that's minor. It just seemed,
Okay.
just trying to think of myself as a resident there.
Okay, no problem.
I guess I think we also do kind of want to better understand the type of commercial use.
Yeah, I think right now I can't see it be a restaurant. It's probably either a small retail space or an office space.
Right,
Those
so-
are probably the two uses, but it's unknown at this point.
Unknown, but I think we should characterize it as commercial retail or office.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
fine, Rachel. Yeah, that's fine. We can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll get back to you about the parking,
Okay,
what the deal with that is. And we're gonna look at the sidewalk a little closer, because if there is a sidewalk that does continue on the other side of Arch Street, we gotta figure out how we're gonna get it to cross the
we
parking.
can take a look at that.
All right.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, Kurt.
Okay, one comes down, one goes out.
Yes. Okay, back again. So thank you all for coming out to the site visit. I think it was very useful kind of standing there looking at things in real life, so, and looking at things up close. So basically what we did is based on our site visit of last week, we made some modifications to the plan you had in front of you. And we've added the trim back that covers some of the brick.
Oh, so hold on, Chris,
Oh,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead, I'm sorry.
Your next item on the agenda is 146. I just wanted to make a record so everybody knows what we're talking about.
Hi. Okay, so we did add the trim back onto the plans that was previously approved. That's on the south end of the building and actually on the east side here. Some of the things that we noticed and that have been discussed are actually just haven't been completed yet in terms of the columns going in the front of here, the railing here, the railing on the north end of the building that covers the HVAC units on that roof. The roof, we are proposing to paint the roof with an appropriate product in dark color, black, warm black. So that's what we're proposing to do, as you see in the renderings here, to get rid of the terracotta color. What we did here too is the brick half walls that are on the outdoor dining areas here, we're proposing to put a cap on that out of the same trim material to try to tie it together, just tone that down a little bit, just give it a little bit of interest there. I think we talked about also, I think you have two options in your packet there. Just running these applied posts to the front of this on the second floor. Not sure that's successful or not, but we're showing it just so you can see what it looks like as an option on there. And then it has that same white cap around here. We're beefing up these columns around in this location here too. So there's that, and I think there was the sign also that we had talked about when we were on the site.
Yeah.
So, just to reiterate on that, this, the existing sign was shown on this plan on the approved. So it was 6 feet wide by 8'6" tall. So this is still 8'6" tall. It's overall 14 feet wide. The sign itself is pretty close to what it, it's 2 feet wider than what was originally proposed. It's the actual signage panel. We've got the added brick on there now.
Okay, I think where we stand right now, just because it has deviated so much from what we approved, and none of us here are design professionals. Like, everybody has varying opinions of what we could do to make it look better. But I think moving forward, we do want to bring a design professional in to review these, because we could go back and forth and we could all have different ideas of what we think it should look like. And it just gets to be too much. Like,
Isn't that person just gonna add another opinion to
another
this?
person, but at least they're a design professional. None of us, that's just not what we do.
Right.
At least to review this. I mean, had we known that the building was gonna look like that, we would have called for an architectural review, I think. The original rendering didn't seem like it needed to. It did fit into the community character. Like, you cited all the examples of why it fit into the community character of the village. Yeah, it's to that point that if this was a building proposed, we would ask for an architectural review, because it is our feeling that it doesn't seem like it does at this point.
I'm just curious, what are the issues right now that are kind of the big issues that are being discussed? I mean, we have.
Well, partially, we still need some kind of guarantee about the roof. I mean, we don't know if a painted roof is necessarily the solution. Maybe it is. I mean, I don't know how long a painted roof lasts for. I mean, these are the things.
If it's a product that's created by Sherwin-Williams for application that the company that manufactures this product recommends for application, then, I mean, it's only as good as it's, but it's made for that use.
Right. I understand that. I mean, again, like, none of us are professionals that I think should make that determination. If they think that's the best move moving forward, that's what we should do. So I think we are going to put forth a resolution for the Board of Trustees to hire an architect to review these changes and make sure that it does fit into community character of this building now at this point.
Isn't that a decision by the planning board to make as opposed to some outside third party?
The Board of Trustees?
No, planning board. To make the decision about community character as opposed to some outside consultant.
No, you're missing there's a specific statute in the village that allows that, provides for an architect to be appointed.
Oh, no, I understand that they're allowed to retain somebody. I'm just questioning whether that's really the need for that when, this is the board that makes those decisions.
Well, they're gonna look at what the architect says to inform the decision. I mean, that's certainly, I mean, any kind of a.
Sorry about that.
Sorry. I mean, hiring experts to evaluate impact is routine. So, you know, it's, I mean, it's not required, but it's certainly within their discretion, and I think Rob just expressed why they're doing it, why they're proposing to do it.
I mean, I've been on record on more than one occasion, and I'll restate my frustration with the way this project has progressed. It's certainly not what we approved. Round brick, knee walls, top and first and second floor. A brick sign, we didn't approve. A design in the chimney, we didn't approve. Terracotta roof, we didn't approve. There is just so much here that completely deviates from the importance of this particular piece of property coming into the village. If you look at the comprehensive plan, as we all have, it's the gateway to Pawling. The pride of the Hudson Valley. This does not, the way this building is right now, it doesn't belong in Pawling, I'm sorry. I'm not criticizing the type of construction, I'm just criticizing the mishmash of building materials. And I find that rather insulting as a member of the planning board to put so much time and effort into a particular project, approve a particular project, and yet have an applicant go rogue on what we approved and absolutely do whatever they wanted to do. The roof is a perfect example. How many courses were laid on the roof and a stop work order was issued, but you continue to lay the roof? And now I'm put in a position where I actually have to compromise between paint or telling you to take it off? It's an unfair position to be in. And I really don't know if this has ever done before. I mean, this is this is a 180 from what you already approved. And yes, we can hire a professional architect, have him or her come in and look at it and give us recommendations. But the way it is right now, I am against the knee walls. I'm against brick. I've always said I was against brick. I didn't want to see another brick laid in Pawling. It's taken away from the beauty of the Dutcher House. Dutcher House in Charles Coleman Boulevard, the Great Dane of the village. Now we have brick all over the place. So I was against brick for that particular reason. It takes away from the beauty of downtown. So I certainly wouldn't have approved the knee walls. I asked for a little bit of stone on the chimney. I didn't get that, but as a compromise, but now I'm being asked to compromise on all this. I'm having a hard time with it.
Well, it falls into what Lou was saying, how it fits into the community character. I
Exactly.
mean, especially in that neighborhood. Like, you gave great examples the first time around of how it ties into the existing neighborhood there. And, I mean, you kind of still have to prove how these changes that have been made still tie into the community character. I mean, I really haven't heard that. Like, I've heard, yes, we would like to do these changes, but I still really haven't heard an explanation as to how this now fits in with the character of the neighborhood there. And it's just so hard. That's why I really just want to bring in a professional, because again, we all have our own opinions, and I think probably both parties would be happier if we can get this some kind of resolution where two professionals that do this for a living can confer and work this out.
We need to get this resolved, because now unfortunately we have that building just sitting there, and it doesn't help anybody. So
Absolutely
the sooner
not.
we get it resolved, the better.
Probably would have been open if just followed the original site plan already.
Do you have somebody in mind that to retain?
I'm going to leave that to the Board of Trustees.
It's within the board, the statute gives that power to the board of trustees, so.
All right.
Do we actually have to put forth a resolution for the Board of Trustees to find an architect for this?
Yes, yeah. I mean, you might want to cover the seeker issues first. I mean, just kind of go through that before you, that
Yeah,
sort of plays into it
well,
as well. I mean, you sort of touching
Yeah,
on
I mean, absolutely, I mean,
seeker, but-
as far
I mean,
as,
can I just sort of
Yeah,
outline
please.
for the board the kind of the options with seeker?
Yeah.
You can, whenever there's a change to a project application, the board should be taking a hard look at whether those changes have any impact on the project in terms of environmental impacts. And they can determine that it doesn't, or they can, as sort of what you were talking about, getting some additional information, defer the decision. If the decision is, you know, that we're uncertain or we have concerns, but there isn't enough, you know, you don't feel like you have enough information, then you can defer that decision and keep the negative deck that was issued the way it is, and then come back after you've gotten that additional information and then decide whether there are any significant environmental impacts, or if anything, you know, anything that comes from the applicant in terms of mitigation could be considered as well on those impacts. But you could also, you know, you also have the option of rescinding the neg deck or modifying the neg deck. I mean, that's, you know, that gets into a lot more complication, and it's certainly not something you're obligated to do at this point, and it sounds like there's, you know, there's still some uncertainty among the board about, you know, or wanting more clarity from professionals as to what the impact is under the master plan and the, you know, the stuff about fitting into the neighborhood and the like that you've been talking about, but to have that kind of buttoned up by an expert, you know, that would also tie into the environmental issues, and then that, certainly discussions with the applicant, and then you'll be in a much better position, I think, to make an informed decision, and you'll have taken, you know, that hard look that you're required to take before making that decision. So you're not required to reopen seeker, and there is this mechanism to, you know, you are looking at the environmental issues in the context of seeker, but you're leaving the status quo while you're doing that.
yeah, so for certain, I would like to have a professional weigh in.
So if the board were to decide not to reopen seeker at this time, but to take that hard look, that would be the resolution that you would do, you know, resolve to, as part of that effort to evaluate the environmental impacts, to engage, as well as looking at it from a site plan perspective, that double reason to.
All right, I know we've gotten in trouble with this in the past, I'd like to have you draft that resolution
Sure.
for us.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, can you adopt that resolution tonight, though? Otherwise, we're waiting another.
Yeah, no, yeah, I think,
Okay.
you know, I mean, you'll get this down, right? So the resolution would be that the board request that the Board of Trustees appoint an architect in accord with local law number 1 of 2009, and they also resolve that architect will provide input with respect to any potential impacts that the changes in the project might have on the environment. Including potential impacts on conformity with the master plan, adherence or impact on community character, and impact on aesthetics / visual.
I mean, I know we're moving in the right direction, but we want to get this 100% right at this point.
Well, I mean, at this point, let's get it done right, I think. We just-
Yeah.
That's
Do
what
you
we
need
can
a
do.
motion on this now?
Well, that's the resolution that Dave
That's
just.
the resolution, but you need a motion to
Yes,
go
we
for the
do.
resolution.
Right, you do.
Yeah, you can make a motion.
So I'll make a motion that we get the resolution to have an architectural review board look at this project.
Just an
Well,
architect,
that's-
not a review board,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
an architect, yeah.
Based on Dave's, I'll second that.
All in favor, do we need to take roll on that? Let's take roll on that.
Lou Musella,
Yes.
Peter Pinelli,
Yes.
Mike Mersands?
Yes.
Rob Pfister?
Yes.
So you have a roll call vote, okay.
When's the next Board of Trustees meeting?
Is this coming Monday. May
All right.
18th.
All right, so if
So
they,
it can go on the agenda for the 18th of my meeting.
Okay. Do you have people in mind that you might be able to reach out to and get?
No, but I'm sure we can come up with something.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the sooner the better, if we can just keep rolling.
yeah, oh,
Behooves
absolutely.
us all to keep moving if we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the effort, Kurt.
Mhm.
You have any other business?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
You got a second? All in favor? Aye.
Second.
Okay.
Alrighty.